who does this guy remind you of? Having this type of player is downright crucial to the NBA. The hyper-athletic, high-flying, bucket-getting, two-way superstar has propelled the league to new heights in every era. Today, we have Anthony Edwards fitting that mold. But who were his predecessors that have cleared his runway and set the bar high? Welcome to Taking the Torch, a new video series where we take the athletes of today and trace back their player archetype across the history of the sport. I'm Red, and I'll be showing you how Anthony Edwards' basketball lineage has evolved through the years with one player example per decade. If you're a fan of Anthony Edwards, then I'm sure you'd like the guys here too. He's been getting a ton of these comparisons lately, so let's take a closer look. At this point, it's hard not to be familiar with Anthony Edwards' game. In the past month of basketball, he's been somewhat of a main character with the NBA. With everyone now confident that he has solidified himself as the face of the league for years to come, it seems like scoring guards have been the most popular type of player to root for, and those explosive highlight machines have always been a fan favorite. That's what Anthony Edwards is, and those are the types of players we'll be looking at. He has a deadly first step and is damn near unstoppable once he's downhill or airborne. Once his jump shot gets going too, he just becomes an offensive problem that no defender can really solve. Additionally, Ant's sheer athleticism at 6'4", 225 pounds with a 6'9" wingspan also turns him into an elite defender himself, a matchup nightmare on both ends. To tie it all up, Ant just has that dog in him. That's a very important part of who he is as a player. We can't forget details like that once we start going back in time for comparisons. In the 2010s, the Timberwolves were so bad that they got the number 1 pick in 2020 to draft Anthony Edwards. The franchise was kinda lost before that. They did trade for the number 1 pick of the 2014 draft, Andrew Wiggins, who came into the league with the nickname Maple Jordan because of his outstanding physical traits and playstyle that resembled the GOAT himself. That maple part, of course, refers to him being Canadian. And like that common Canadian stereotype, Wiggins was seen as too polite, for lack of a better term. That's why he's not actually our player comparison for the 2010s. Ant's in-your-face trash talk and audacity to take over games sets him apart. Ant took the torch as the Timberwolves' alpha wolf from none other than Jimmy Butler. They have that same size, strength, and speed to dominate at the wing position. They lock in and get stops so they can kill you in transition. They can outplay any star on any given game that comes down to the wire. And they both have rumors around being Michael Jordan's long-lost son. Possessing that same dog in them as the GOAT made them the de facto leader of their respective Timberwolves squad. But it's interesting how they went about this in different ways. Jimmy Butler ended his Wolves tenure in practice, giving the team starters hell with just benchwarmers on his side of the scrimmage. The whole time shouting at everyone, the players, the coach, but especially the team owner, while backing it up with his game. While I can't lie and say that wasn't cool as hell, it probably wasn't the right way to lead a team. Ant is just as crucial to the Wolves now and is still as vocal, but he puts this into giving his teammates a ton of praise and learning from them, while still having an infectious confidence that raises up the whole team instead. His critiques are given with respect and humor, and he saves his trash talk for the opposing team. Leadership is a tricky thing for a 22-year-old in the playoffs. Having a lot of older teammates and great coaching surely helps with that. Forming a good defensive team surrounding this one young offensive superstar has worked before Ant and the Timberwolves. It's the same formula that gave Dwayne Wade and the Miami Heat their first ever championship back in 2006. Wade came into the league at the same age Ant is right now. And in that first season, the Miami Heat turned around into a winning franchise too. If Ant follows this same trajectory, he'll be leading his team to a championship very soon as well. He certainly seems to be able to do what Wade does. Look at how they split the defense with that lightning quick first step, and how they finish around the rim through contact despite being 6'4". 06 Wade hasn't really developed his jump shot yet, but for this era, he was as decent as Ant is right now. And besides, these two had a reliable array of sidesteps, runners, and offhand acrobatics that just make them unpredictable on the attack. It's not completely out of the question that Anthony Edwards carries his team with 35 points per game in the finals, just like how Wade did in 06. The excitement of watching a sky's the limit prodigy like Ant and Wade is part of why people love them. So we'll stay with the youth for our player of the 90s. 20-year-old Kobe Bryant in 1999 isn't really too young once you remember that at this point, he had already been third-team All-NBA and was ascending very quickly. I picked Kobe in the 90s because 1, I wanted to have Wade for the 2000s, but 2, Kobe's personality had just changed greatly within the 2000s. At this age, Kobe wasn't called the Black Mamba yet, he was called Showboat. His irrational confidence and braggadocio were rooted in being a young, hungry up-and-comer. That's the same vibe I see with Ant. These two had all the athleticism in the world, and they weren't afraid to flex it over the pitiful souls tasked with containing them. At this point in both of their playstyles, there are still leagues to improve when it comes to mature decision-making and consistent jump shooting. But hey, Kobe put in the work and mastered that, so I don't see why Ant can't follow that same path. Kobe, of course, was already following someone's footsteps. We all know who it is. He's basically the reason we made this video. For our player of the 80s, we have Clyde Drexler. I'm kidding. Of course, it's Michael Jordan. I mean, who doesn't want to be like Mike? I know every good player has been compared to MJ at some point in their careers, but with Anthony Edwards, it does make a lot more sense. Look at how they move, the fluidity and lift in their jump shots, the fearlessness and flair of their drives. Heck, even outside of the court, they have the same energy. The charisma, mentality, and even the marketability of these stars just stand out from the rest of the league. Still, it's not fair to put any player up against Jordan, even Ant. At this age, Jordan was already gunning for the scoring title and the runner-up for the MVP in the regular season. Then again, Ant has had more playoff success than Jordan at this stage. So hopefully we do get to witness a career even close to as successful as Jordan's. They're saying the league needs this type of guy again. The perfect player to be the face of the NBA. All this talk about the league needing a transcendent star goes back to the early 70s, when the NBA competed with the ABA for the basketball market. They pushed for the merger of these two leagues in 1976, and it had a lot to do with these two stars who faced off in that year's ABA finals, as well as the first ever slam dunk contest. It was between the ABA MVP, Julius Erving, and the ABA Rookie of the Year, David Thompson. Their star power was just too big for the NBA to miss out on. Of these two, I'd say Ant is more a descendant of Thompson. Dr. J is taller at 6'7", and his wingspan and hands look much larger than Ant's. They play pretty similarly, relying on the same tools and skills, but Dr. J's game was sculpted into small forward perfection, with an ability to grab a lot of boards, run plays off the ball, and take advantage of the ever-present mismatch on smaller guards and slower bigs. Off the court is where we begin to see more similarities though. They handled their celebrity status very well. They exuded this cool aura that demanded every fan's utmost attention and every peer's utmost respect. David Thompson, on the other hand, is as short as Ant, but was much leaner at 6'4" with 195 pounds. He got to the rack not by tearing through contact, but with a breakneck first step and intelligent back cuts, while having a deadly jump shot to add even more pressure to the defense. He added a vertical spacing threat as a small player that had defenders of the 70s dumbfounded. His rapid rise to stardom resembles Ant's career trajectory as the highly touted prodigy who immediately actualized their potential. He was a gigantic icon, innovating the game even back in NC State, where he would inspire a young North Carolina kid named Michael Jordan. It's not a surprise that MJ considers David Thompson his favorite player. The GOAT chose his biggest inspiration to induct him into the Hall of Fame, and it's a terrific moment to just witness how important these sports lineages are. Jordan said that the whole term and measurement of a player's vertical leap began with David Thompson. But a lot of players throughout NBA history attest that the whole idea of reliably utilizing verticality to score was pioneered by Eljin Baylor. While Bill Russell also extruded the two-dimensional game into the Z-axis through defense, Baylor became the NBA's first aerial artist on offense. He could launch himself on drives and hang in the air long enough to outlast any adversary. If need be, he'd have the creativity to bend his body, fake directions, switch hands, and put some spin on the ball, all in midair. These have become invaluable techniques for any player, and many of those who mastered it have ended up in this video. Eljin and Ant have a similar penchant for throwing the ball off the window on improvised layups and close-up middies. Eljin did play more like a big strong forward, but he was only an inch taller and weighed the same as Anthony Edwards. That's because his vertical made it as if he was 7 feet tall compared to everyone else in his era. He was rebounding with the best big men, being by far the finest rebounder in this lineage of guards. But he'd still be the one to bring the ball up the floor and initiate offense from the perimeter. His dynamic play made the 9 other players look like they were walking on sand. Even as players get faster, stronger, and bouncier in every era, there is a star that sets himself apart from the rest. Whether it be through killer instinct, unwavering confidence, creativity and intrigue, or just being plain cool, we always find ourselves enamored with this type of player. So thank God we have Anthony Edwards to carry the torch today. If you like this video, please let us know. This Taking the Torch series is a fascinating lens to look at different players with. Of course, we'd have to start with this popular Ant to MJ comparison thing, but I'm also excited to examine other unique archetypes, like who was the Steph Curry of the 70s? And if anyone at all was playing like Nikola Jokic before. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to hear about next. If you were interested with the info here on older players, please check out the rest of the channel. I actually made a video on the stars of the ABA, which featured some players here. More videos on more sports and more moments in history are on the channel, so please subscribe. We'll see you on the next one. This is Red, signing off.